Imagine going to sleep and your digital feed looks, completely standard.
Mm,
Just the usual updates, news, the algorithms doing their normal thing.
right, just a typical Tuesday night.
Exactly. But you wake up the next morning and suddenly every single person you know is posting a picture of themselves covered in a bright purple milkshake.
Mm.
Or they're sharing this highly stylized, colorful graphic of the exact music they listened to all year.
Oh yeah, the annual feed takeover.
Right, and it feels like a spontaneous explosion.
Yeah.
Like, out of nowhere, the entire internet is infected with the exact same obsession. But to the people who actually engineered that moment, it doesn't look like an explosion at all. It looks like a perfectly executed mathematical equation.
It really does. I mean, it feels like chaos to us as users, but behind the curtain, it is a meticulously crafted, highly predictable system.
Hmm.
We kind of operate under this assumption that we are fully in control of what we click, like, and share.
But we aren't, are we?
Not even close. The reality is that the architecture of a viral moment is built specifically to bypass that conscious control. It taps directly into these deeply ingrained psychological reflexes.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because I'm your host, and today we are taking a deep dive into the fascinating and honestly pretty misunderstood world of viral marketing.
And I'm here as the resident expert. We've got a lot of ground to cover.
We really do. Today, we're building the ultimate cheat sheet on digital culture for you, the listener. We're drawing from a highly comprehensive Wikipedia article that breaks down the history of viral marketing, the deep psychology behind why we share things, and, well, the almost scientific formulas that marketers use to try and engineer virality.
Yeah, the math behind the magic.
Exactly. The mission today is to demystify the mechanics. We want to figure out why certain ads, trends, or products completely take over your screen, while millions of others just evaporate without a trace.
And demystifying those mechanics is so crucial because the term viral has been really watered down lately.
Oh, totally.
Like, if a brand buys primetime television space, runs a funny commercial, and millions of people see it, the public often calls that going viral. But that is a complete misinterpretation of the concept.
Right. The source material draws a very sharp line there. And the analogy they use makes perfect sense. Traditional marketing is like a brand standing on a stage, shouting at a massive crowd with a megaphone. You pay for the megaphone, you pay for the stage, and you just hope people listen.
Which is very different from virality.
Yeah, exactly. True viral marketing is handing a juicy secret to one person in the front row and watching them willingly whisper it to the person next to them until the entire arena is whispering about it. It's a business strategy that relies entirely on existing social networks. It spreads from person to person, literally mimicking the transmission of a real virus.
What's fascinating here is the distinction between that organic spread and the sponsored origin. There is this persistent myth that viral videos are just happy accidents. You know, a camera rolling at the right time.
Like the double rainbow guy or something.
Exactly. But the reality of modern viral marketing is that the vast majority of these seemingly organic moments are heavily funded by a sponsor who launches the initial push. The brand creates the virus in a lab, injects it into the system, and then they step back.
Because the strategy hinges on the consumer becoming the carrier, right?
Precisely. If you, the user, do not physically copy the link or forward the email or post it to your own profile, the campaign fails. Without peer-to-peer transmission, it is not viral marketing.
And the history of engineering that transmission didn't even start with modern algorithms. It predates the internet entirely. The text highlights this wild campaign from 1989 involving an Australian pop singer named Marcus Montana.
Oh, the analog viral leap? I love this example.
It's so crazy. Thousands of posters just popped up overnight all over Sydney that only said, Marcus is coming. No context, no dates, no explanation. Just a massive, mysterious buzz injected directly into the physical streets.
People were talking about it everywhere, trying to figure out what it meant.
Yeah, but there's a foundational lesson there. The buzz worked flawlessly, but his actual music career completely failed.
Which proves that you can successfully hack human curiosity to engineer a viral moment. But if the underlying product doesn't deliver on the hype, the virus dies the second the mystery is solved.
The buzz couldn't compensate for a bad product. But if we fast forward a few years to the digital breakthrough, we see what happens when the product is the virus. Look at Hotmail in 1996 and 1997. They basically invented the digital viral loop.
They really did, and all they did was hard code a tiny line of text to the bottom of every single outgoing email sent by their users. It just said, get your free email at Hotmail.
It's so simple.
But the exponential math of that single sentence is staggering. They gained 12 million users in just 18 months. Every time a user sent an email to a colleague or friend, they were unknowingly acting as a highly targeted ad, passing the virus to someone in their trusted network.
It's brilliant. But if viral marketing strictly requires us to pass the message along, we have to look at the psychology of the carrier. Like, what triggers make us so willing to become a brand's free billboard?
That is the million-dollar question.
Wait, so when we share a cool video, are we actually just using the brand to boost our own social currency? Like, we're not helping the brand out of altruism, we're just trying to make ourselves look interesting.
This raises an important question about human motivation, and it cuts to the core of why anything spreads online. We are incredibly selfish curators. There's a framework mentioned in the research by marketing professor Jonah Berger called STEPPS.
STEPPS, right?
Right. It outlines the psychological drivers of sharing social currency, triggers, emotion, public, practical value, and stories. And your point about wanting to look good perfectly aligns with social currency. We share things that make us look sharp or in the know.
The stories concept from that framework really stood out to me. The text directly compares a brand's narrative to a Trojan horse.
Yes, a great analogy.
The story is the giant, impressive wooden horse that we willingly drag inside the gates of our social circle because it's entertaining. But hidden inside the belly of that story is the brand's actual commercial message, just hitching a ride past our defenses.
The Trojan horse is a powerful visual, but it only works if the horse is built from the right materials to bypass those specific gates. And that material is emotion.
But not just any emotion, right?
Exactly. Berger's research reveals a very specific nuance. It's not just about making people feel something, it's about the type of physiological arousal that emotion creates. High arousal, positive emotions like awe, joy, and excitement drive exponentially more shares than low arousal or negative emotions.
Because your nervous system is literally stimulated.
Yes. When you experience a high arousal state, your biological instinct is to externalize that energy. You have to pass it on to someone else to balance yourself out.
The research uses the term frisson to describe this, F-R-I-S-S-O-N. It's that primitive physical response, like a sudden chill down your spine, or your heart rate spiking when you watch an incredible stunt or hear a great piece of music.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
When a piece of content gives you frisson, you feel so deeply immersed in it that the act of hitting share is almost a biological reflex. You aren't rationally evaluating the brand's merits, your body is simply reacting to stimuli.
And that physiological reaction ties directly into our need for social proof. We are hardwired to seek validation from our tribe. When we experience frisson, we want our peers to experience it too, because providing that experience grants us status.
So that's why consumers vastly prefer experience-based content over fact-based content. A list of product features does not trigger frisson.
No, definitely not. It doesn't elevate our status. We want an immersive experience that transfers our emotional high to our network.
Okay, so if we know that our brains are highly vulnerable to these specific emotional triggers, how do the professionals actually architect the virus? It can't just be luck. There has to be a structural methodology for finding the right hosts.
Oh, absolutely. It is a highly mapped out ecosystem. Marketing professors Andreas Kaplan and Michael Hanline identified 3 non-negotiable criteria for a viral campaign. You need the right message, the right environment, and the right messenger.
If any of those 3 fail, the transmission stops.
Exactly.
Let's dissect the messengers, because this is where the virus physically travels. The research categorizes them into 3 distinct types who act like a relay team. First, you have the market mavens. These are the information obsessives.
The people who are always on the pulse.
Right. They constantly monitor the fringes, find the cool new underground thing first, and transmit it to their immediate tight-knit circle. But mavens are just finders. They aren't necessarily persuaders.
That is where the baton is passed to the second group, the salespeople. They take the raw discovery from the maven and they amplify it. They possess the charisma to frame the message so it actually resonates with normal people.
They make the underground thing palatable.
Right. But even a great salesperson has a limited reach. That brings us to the final critical node, the social hubs. These are the hyper-connected individuals who sit at the intersection of hundreds of different social circles.
So when the salesperson hands that persuasive message to a social hub, the virus crosses over from a niche community into the global mainstream.
Yes, the social hub is the multiplier.
And to ensure that the message survives that relay race, researchers Puri-Watt and Tripopsicle developed a framework called the 7 Eyes of Effective Word of Mouth. It's like a structural stress test for virality.
They look for innovation, insight, instantaneity, integration, interactivity, identity, and invisibility.
Now, I have to push back hard on that last one. Invisibility. Isn't the whole point of marketing to be seen?
Mm.
How does a brand successfully pretend not to be a brand while selling us something? And wouldn't that destroy the trust we're trying to build with our friends?
It's the central paradox of the industry. Invisibility doesn't mean hiding the logo completely. It means ensuring the commercial intent is entirely subservient to the entertainment value.
Oh, I see.
If our radar detects a blatant sales pitch, our psychological guard immediately goes up. We refuse to share blatant commercials because that damages our social currency. It makes us look like corporate shills to our friends.
Right. Nobody wants to be the walking billboard.
Exactly. So invisibility is the art of disarming the consumer skepticism so thoroughly with innovation and insight, that deep emotional connection, that they willingly overlook the branding.
That reframes it perfectly. It's not deception, it's a value exchange. We tolerate the branding because the content matches our identity, the traits we want to project to the world.
And if we look at integration, it's about making sure that once the virus spreads, it actually funnels people back to the core business. You want to avoid the Marcus Montana trap where the buzz leads nowhere.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the final question, interactivity is what truly separates viral marketing from traditional broadcasting. Traditional marketing is a one-way street. Buy this. Viral marketing demands a public, two-way engagement. The consumer has to be able to play with the virus, alter it, participate in it.
Here's where it gets really interesting. To perfectly target those hyper-connected social hubs we talked about, and to nail the instantaneity of jumping on a trend the second it happens, brands don't rely on chance anymore. They just buy the hubs directly. We are operating entirely in the influencer era.
The landscape has completely shifted. Traditional celebrities like movie stars or athletes are routinely being bypassed in favor of native online creators.
Because of authenticity, right?
Yeah. Exactly. These digital creators possess something a Hollywood actor does not perceive: ground-level authenticity. Because they interact directly with their audience in the comments, the parasocial relationship is incredibly strong.
They function algorithmically as our friends. And for the modern consumer, that solves a massive psychological burden known as the paradox of choice. We are bombarded with thousands of purchasing decisions daily, which leads to total paralysis.
Right, it's exhausting.
But if an online creator we trust cuts through the noise and tells us exactly what to buy, it acts as a mental shortcut. We saw this executed flawlessly with Coca-Cola's Share a Coke campaign.
Oh, replacing the iconic logo with common first names.
Yes, they perfectly targeted millennials by tapping into their specific desire for personalized social networking. They turned a static beverage into a physical tool for interactivity, and sales jumped by 11% in a massive, mature market.
It was a masterclass in utilizing the environment. But outsourcing your brand's transmission to third-party social hubs is a massive double-edged sword. Duncan Watts, a prominent researcher in the field, points out a huge risk.
Which is?
The primary point of failure is simply that the influencer might decide the content doesn't fit their identity, and they refuse to pass the message on. The virus just dies in the petri dish.
Relying on influencers is like handing the steering wheel of your multi-million-dollar company to a complete stranger. They might drive you to the promised land, or they might just park the car and walk away. Or, even worse, what if they drive you to the entirely wrong destination?
That is the ultimate targeting disaster, and the sources highlight Blendtec as the prime example.
Oh man, the blender company.
Yeah, Blendtec manufactures high-end, heavy-duty kitchen blenders. They launched a video series called Will It Blend, where the founder casually blended extremely tough random objects, golf balls, glow sticks, even brand new smartphones.
I remember those completely dominating the internet. The visual of a phone turning into dust was pure frisson.
They achieved massive scale, hitting tens of millions of views. But the campaign suffered a fatal mutation. The algorithm pushed those videos primarily to teenage boys who were captivated by the pure destruction.
And teenage boys do not purchase $500 kitchen appliances?
Exactly. The campaign succeeded brilliantly in its innovation and invisibility, but it completely failed integration. The viral payload infected a demographic that had zero commercial value to the company.
It really highlights how incredibly fragile the ecosystem is. Well, let's pivot to the Hall of Fame. Let's look at what happens when a brand successfully calibrates all these psychological triggers, leverages the right environment, and navigates the mutation risks perfectly.
A textbook example is Dollar Shave Club.
Yes. In 2012, they spent a total of $4,500 producing a single deadpan YouTube video. Within 48 hours, they had 12,000 signups, eventually scaling to over 21 million views.
Dollar Shave Club succeeded because they ruthlessly executed the identity metric. They didn't just sell cheap razors, they sold a rebellion against the overpriced, overly serious grooming industry.
Their deadpan humor provided massive social currency. When you shared that video, you were broadcasting to your network that you were smart enough to see through traditional corporate marketing.
And then you have brands that don't even create the environment, they just hijack it. The Oreo power outage is legendary for this.
During the 2013 Super Bowl, right? The stadium suffered a massive blackout.
Right. And within minutes, Oreo's team tweeted a simple image of a cookie in dim lighting with the caption, "You can still dunk in the dark."
That is the pinnacle of instantaneity. They bypassed the need to spend millions of dollars creating a moment. They just injected their virus into the massive real-time attention vacuum that the blackout created.
It is the purest form of what the industry calls newsjacking, inserting your brand into a breaking news cycle so seamlessly that your marketing becomes part of the event itself.
And sometimes, a brand realizes they can just weaponize our own data to generate social currency. Spotify Wrapped is perhaps the most reliable viral loop in existence.
Oh, absolutely.
Since 2016, Spotify takes your raw listening data, which is effectively just a boring spreadsheet, and wraps it in incredibly slick, colorful graphics. They are handing you a tailor-made tool to broadcast your identity to the world.
120 million users accessed it in 2021.
It's crazy. Every single December, your entire feed transforms into a free, peer-to-peer advertising network for Spotify simply because human beings are desperate to show off their eclectic music tastes.
It is the ultimate evolution of invisible marketing. The user feels entirely centered. You believe you are sharing a profound insight about your own personality, but structurally, you're just distributing a highly optimized billboard for the platform's algorithm.
But the truly fascinating moments occur when the brand loses control of the narrative and the community takes over entirely. Look at the McDonald's Grimace Shake phenomenon from June 2023.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was wild.
McDonald's introduced a purple milkshake to celebrate the character Grimace's birthday. It was designed as a totally standard nostalgic promotion. But then, users on TikTok began posting these elaborate miniature horror films. They would take a sip of the purple shake, and the next shot would be them lying on the floor in an abandoned building, pretending to be dead, covered in purple goo.
It was a completely bizarre, organic mutation of the product. McDonald's had absolutely nothing to do with the horror concept. But their marketing team recognized the immense power of the interactivity that was occurring.
Instead of issuing a corporate statement shutting it down, they leaned into it.
Yes, they leaned entirely into the chaos. They tweeted from the perspective of Grimace, pretending to be oblivious to the horror trend. By validating the community's weird inside jerk, they accelerated the viral loop and drove massive real-world sales.
So what does this all mean for the rest of us? Like, does this mathematical approach only work if you have a massive global brand? The research says no, and the Ghostface real estate listing proves it. This completely subverts the traditional model.
I love the Ghostface example.
In the autumn of 2019, a realtor named James Pyle in Lansing, Michigan, was trying to sell a century-old house. Instead of posting standard, well-lit photos of empty rooms, he hired a photographer, put on the iconic ghost mask from the movie Scream, and staged photos of the killer doing mundane chores.
Raking leaves, carving pumpkins, peeking out from behind curtains.
Exactly. He applied the exact same 7 eyes to a hyperlocal housing market. He leveraged innovation by radically deviating from the sterile norms of real estate. He nailed instantaneity by dropping the listing right before Halloween. He gave the audience a reason to experience frisson while looking at a property listing.
His stated goal was just to get a modest bump, maybe 1,000 views on Zillow. Instead, the inherent social currency of the photos caused it to be picked up by local radio and then national news syndicates.
Within 5 days, those photos generated over 5 million views across various real estate platforms.
And the ultimate proof of concept, he secured a cash offer on the house in just 4 days. He took a deeply boring utilitarian process and engineered it into a highly shareable pop culture event.
It perfectly encapsulates the core thesis of the research. When you understand the underlying mechanics of how information travels, when you supply the right messengers with a narrative that triggers high arousal emotions, the scale of your enterprise is irrelevant.
The digital virus behaves exactly the same way, whether you are selling a global software platform or a single house in Michigan.
It completely shifts how you view your daily interactions with the internet. So, as we wrap this deep dive up, let's bring it back to you, the listener. The next time you are scrolling through your feed and you feel that sudden urge to hit share on a hilarious commercial, or you proudly forward your Spotify Wrapped stats to your group chat.
Or you find yourself waiting in line to buy a purple milkshake just to participate in a joke.
Right, take a second to pause. Ask yourself, are you genuinely acting on your own conscious free will? Or have you just been flawlessly targeted by a social hub who is utilizing your psychological need for social currency to spread their payload?
It is a genuinely sobering realization. We are the network infrastructure, we are the carriers. And while we have spent this entire deep dive analyzing how brands meticulously engineer these formulas to generate positive buzz, affection, and sales, there is a much darker implication buried in the psychological research we reviewed.
Exactly. The data reveals a massive paradox in human behavior. The sources state that while high arousal positive emotions drive the sheer volume of shares, negative word of mouth actually holds far more power over a consumer's actual purchasing decisions.
We share joy to look good, but we change our behavior based on negative warnings because it taps into a deeper survival instinct.
It is the ultimate vulnerability in the viral architecture. We have seen how rapidly a carefully constructed positive virus can sweep across the globe to build a brand. But if positive virality merely creates social currency, wait, what happens to our digital ecosystem and to the brands themselves when a completely organic, heavily emotional, negative viral event takes root?
That is the profound risk of relying on the crowd.
If you wake up tomorrow and your feed isn't flooded with a quirky trend, but rather with intense viral outrage against a company, how does a brand ever survive when the exact same viral machinery they spent years training the internet to use suddenly mutates and turns entirely against them? It's something to think about the next time you see a seemingly unstoppable trend exploding out of nowhere.